One of the true pioneering women in tech is back, and she's taken over the show. And Shaku Atre has some questions for me. All right. Hey ho, let's go. Hello, my legendary friends. I am stoked you're with me today, or I should say you're with Shaku today for this episode of Legends and Losers. I couldn't even believe it when she suggested this. So if you've been listening to Legends and Losers for a long time and you remember some of our early shows, one of our very early episodes, and I'm going to pull up the episode number because I think it was pretty early on, was Shaku Atre. And I've known Shaku for more years than I would like to remember. I want to say 30. I'm pushing up on 30 years. And she was one of the original pioneering women in tech. And her and I got to know each other years ago when we were on the same speaking circuit. And then we lost touch, and then we got reconnected. And having her back in my life for the last several years has been an absolute joy. Yeah, episode 4 of Legends and Losers is with Shaku Atre. And if you have not heard episode 4 with Shaku Atre, I want to get down on my knees and beg you to check it out, because if you want to get inspired, you want to get motivated, you want to see how people never take no for an answer, if you want to see how people build and capitalize on their giant drive and intellect, and you want to be inspired by a woman who in the 1970s was working on database technology at IBM in Manhattan, going to work in her Indian sari, that's who we lovingly refer to as Master Shaku, my friend Shaku Atre. And so here's what happens. So I'm in regular touch with her because Shaku and I, not only do we communicate directly, but I'm also good friends with her son, Tushar. And Tushar is actually one of my big surfing buddies and surfing coaches. He really, at a time when I was struggling in my surfing life, took me under his wing. And one day we figured out that his mom and I had this connection, and that's how she got back. So I'm in regular touch with Shaku, and I see Tushar all the time. And so a little while back, Shaku proposes this idea where she wants to put me on Legends and Losers, and she wants to take over the show. So that's what we did. And this was a life thrill and an honor to have a living legend, person I consider a mentor and a friend, to take over the show. And she, as you'll see, thought very carefully and very analytically about the kinds of things she wanted to talk to me about. And so she drives the dialogue. And so here we are. Oh, and one other thing I do want to tell you about Shaku. If you get a chance, check out worldwomanwarrior.com, because that's her nonprofit, and she is such an inspiration. She's trying to inspire women all around the world to really go for it in life and achieve financial success. So check out World Woman Warrior. And Shaku is also the author of 6 highly regarded information technology books that have sold hundreds of thousands of copies. She's an entrepreneur, and she does a reasonable amount of speaking today, and she's just incredible. So here she is taking over Legends and Losers and putting me in the hot seat. Shaku Atre.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great,
I'm
Shaku.
delighted to be here to speak with you about all the legendary work which you have done. So you are on a mission to help people design a legendary business and a legendary life while having a very good time too. You are host of the podcast Silicon Valley Needs, Legends and Losers, and co-authored for HarperCollins the instant classic, Play Bigger, How Pirates, Dreamers, and Innovators Create and Dominate Markets. You have been with Silicon Valley's 3 companies, a CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, former advisor, coach, board director to cover 50 Silicon Valley venture-backed startups, and a former entrepreneur yourself. But one of the main things which I wanted to mention is that you have helped those 3 Silicon Valley companies to either go public or being acquired, even after going public. So I think the biggest question I have for the legendary CMO, you have lived through many changes in marketing that you have lived through. I don't mean you're old by no means, but you have gone through some. So you started in the age of direct mail and lived through online marketing, and now living in the age of social media and content marketing, not to mention marketing automation and AI. So how were you able to manage to stay ahead of your competition?
Well, first of all, thank you for all that wonderful stuff that you said about me, Shaku. That's very sweet of you. Today, I don't think of myself as having competition. So if the question is in the context of what I do today in my life, I don't, I mean, I guess just theoretically, we compete at Legends and Losers for people's time. And so I guess theoretically we compete against other podcasts, but I don't think about it that way. And so there's really nothing I do today that I think of in that context. Now, back when I was an entrepreneur or a CMO, very different.
So what I'm interested in to hear, what shifts surprised you while you were CMO?
I think so. There were many technology shifts, and those all come with surprises, and they're amazing. And how fortunate to have been there for client server and the birth of the PC, and then the internet, and now the cloud, and now AI. And so that's a cool set of technology waves or changes to be part of. And I know you have a pretty good list yourself.
Yeah, well, I want to hear from you today.
So there's that. And then there's also the different stages of companies, that I've been involved with over the years. And then there's the absolute joy of winning. And then there's the thrown up with broken ribs and battered orbital bone feeling you get when you know you've lost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, what changes while you were working with these companies as CMO were you able to take most advantage of?
Well, I think as a CMO, I took advantage of the internet very early. So a simple example would be there was a telecom company that you'll remember, Shaku, called MCI. And they tended to be on the more innovative side. And they were doing some pioneering work in the internet. And they had an emerging beta product that they were calling a web seminar product, where you could do a presentation over the web. So we became the first beta client of MCI's as a public company to do a communication as a web seminar.
Which company are you talking about?
That was when I was the head of marketing of Vantiv, and that would have been 97-ish. Yeah.
Okay.
So as a CMO, I always tried to take advantage of whatever the new technology had to offer.
That's wonderful. But how did you get a hold of it so that you could take the best of that technology? Because when any new technology comes to the market, not everything is gold that shines.
Yes.
So you have to be able to have that sieve with which you can then take out only the nuggets.
Yeah.
So how were you able to do that?
So, in the case of that example, our CEO was skeptical and our CFO was very skeptical because we used it to announce an acquisition. And so, what a communication to Wall Street is like. And so there was risk associated with doing that. And to make matters worse, our CEO and CFO were on the East Coast, and I was here with the CEO of the company we acquired. So we couldn't even look at each other while we were doing this presentation and using this new technology to present over the web.
That must have been challenging.
Yeah, but we said, let's go for it. And the worst thing that'll happen is this web presentation thing won't work and everybody will still be on the conference call. And so we'll look silly for having failed with this web presentation shit, but so what? And so we did it and it worked and it was really cool.
What that means, if I can glean something from this statement, is that as a CMO, you really have to take some risks.
Look, I wasn't the CMO of a company curing cancer, okay? Like, we were selling enterprise software. So yeah, take some risks, of course. When I was an entrepreneur in my very first business, there was we were in a little incubator space, and there was a company there that was doing custom software and marketing software. And this was in the very early 90s when the fax machine was still a fairly new and cool thing. Like when you put your fax number on your business card, like you were the man or the woman, as the case may be.
Yes.
And so these guys down the hall had built software to essentially spam fax machines. And so we were one of the first companies in Montreal to do any fax machine direct marketing. And in the beginning, people thought it was really cool. After a while, they got pretty pissed off. But in the very beginning, it was innovative and it led to some business.
And you got their attention.
Yeah.
Is that one of the main things you have to have as a CMO, to get attention?
Absolutely. And in a lot of ways, without that skill, you're toast.
So getting attention is one of the things which you have to be after. But to get attention, you have to fulfill that attention. You cannot just have attention and have a faux pas.
Well, yeah, and attention for what? Shaku, we recently had Eric Weinmeier on Legends and Losers, and he's the blind athlete who summited Everest and kayaked the Grand Canyon. And I mean, it's just an extraordinary, his achievements would be extraordinary were he sighted as an adventure athlete. And of course he's not. Anyway, at one point I asked him about his increasing fame, and he just pointed it back to his foundation, No Barriers. And when I asked him about sort of the Kardashianization of our world, he just said, look, the world doesn't need more bullshit. So on one hand, yes, we have to find a way to capture the attention, the imagination of our market. But at the same time, the world doesn't need more bullshit. So what you're doing needs to be authentic.
Yes, that means you really have to have the real core. And to bring attention to that real core, you have to take some risks.
Yes.
Once the people see the real value in that core, then they will appreciate that very much.
Yes, I think that's exactly right, Shaku.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you have said in sometimes that CMO's tenure is 44 months. Is it still 44 months, or has it shortened now?
To the best of my knowledge, I mean, the good Lord knows I'm not a market researcher, but I pay attention to this stuff. So it's around that, yeah.
And
my suspicion, sorry to cut you off, my suspicion is it's probably quite less in tech.
That's what I thought it will be.
Yeah,
everything is compressed.
I think a lot of CMOs are done in 24 months.
Compressed. Everything is compressed.
I think so. I mean, if you just go to the CMOs that you know on LinkedIn and look at their tenure, there's a lot of 1.5, 2.5, maybe
Yes,
3.5.
yeah.
But 5 years at a company is a long time.
Yeah. And you also said that one of the first things as CMO you have to do is in the first 90 days that you have to work towards increasing revenue.
Yeah.
I mean, it is common sense that if the revenue goes up, everything is hunky-dory. But why are you saying that the CMOs, it's also CMO's responsibility? Now, what happens to the sales chief? Isn't that sales chief's responsibility?
For sure it is. And I think it's the CEO's responsibility. And I think it's the CFO's responsibility. And I think it's the head of products responsibility. And I think it's the executive team's responsibility. And the reason I think that is because if it's my number, just like it's your number, then it's our number.
Okay.
Right? Because when I was the head of marketing at Mercury, my last CMO job, the head of sales was a guy named Jay Larson, unbelievable executive. And he owned the number. Jay is a very serious, successful, big time, an extraordinary enterprise sales leader. And so, yeah, he had the number. But by all of us treating it like it was our number too, we had the right focus. The other thing is, as a CMO, I spent about 50% of my time on the road. And in our industry, that's
doing
extraordinary.
What? Doing
Going
what?
on sales calls, giving speeches, doing press tours, opening new countries, whatever was required.
And did that then, it's kind of feeding like both ways, like you help the sales staff, then did they come to you with some ideas for the marketing?
Well, sure.
And
the other thing was, I was in the market. Like, I didn't have some theoretical experience. I didn't read some fucking chart or something. I knew.
Maybe that's why you were successful.
I would meet with 40 CIOs a quarter, some quarters, right? Now, maybe sometimes not one-on-one, maybe at a dinner or something, but enough to shake their hand and, have a real interaction and exchange business cards, for sure. We were, one of the things I loved about Mercury was we were an executive team that was in the field. And I grew up as an entrepreneur. So if you don't sell, you don't eat, right? And so, so at Mercury, a lot of us were in the field.
And I think if I just interject a little bit of what I did is that before I started my business, I used to take train from Rye, New York, where we lived, to New York City. And sometimes I sat next to an elderly gentleman who had something which he has his list of things which he owned and so on. Portfolio. I didn't know the word portfolio. So I said, what is a portfolio? He said, portfolio means how much I own. I said, okay, that makes sense. So I said, I'm going to start my business. What is one thing which you tell me as an advice? He said, polish your shoes and pound the street.
Polish your shoes and pound the street. How old were you?
I was 36.
That's so great.
Okay, so, but nowadays, you don't see your customers. So is there something missing?
Well, I mean, a lot of it is digital, of course. And so being steeped in that is a different skill set. That said, human beings are still human beings.
I know, but see, one-on-one and pressing that flesh doesn't happen anymore. So what is your advice to the CMOs? What should they compensate that with?
Yeah, so I think you're right. It doesn't happen very much. It certainly doesn't happen for me. I don't know how most people feel, but I don't want to go anywhere. You know, I used to travel 300,000-400,000 miles a year. My friend Ray from Constellation Research did like almost 700,000 miles in the last 12 months. Like just. So I don't really want to go anywhere, and I think with Zoom stuff and all this other stuff is really cool. So, so I think that happens more and more, and so I think it gets harder and harder to actually see somebody. Now, that said, Shaku, there are people that I work with that I've known for years who I value tremendously, who I've never actually met in person.
So that is another skill that you have to develop, even if you don't see the person face to face, how to see, so to say, that person's sentiments.
Yes.
If I am trying to sell something, I mean, as human beings, your face and your features, your eyes and everything expresses something which, if you are a good reader, you can figure it out. But now you don't see the person.
Yeah.
So what to do?
I think it's a new muscle, you know, and I think in the world that we live in, it's a really, really important one. I'll give you a simple example. My buddy Eddie Yoon. So he's been on the show. He's quoted in the book. We quote some of his research in the book. And he is the sort of preeminent category design guru to Fortune 500 companies, and specifically consumer brand companies, the big guys. And we're not sure who found who, but we got connected. And he and I started talking digitally. I can't remember if it was on Twitter or LinkedIn or where it was. And he's written a bunch for Harvard Business, you know, HBR, and really good stuff. So we start having conversation. I told him we were working on the book. Anyway, one thing leads to another, and he's helping us with the book. And we're sharing things that we're learning and so forth and so on. Anyway, he's become a good buddy. He's now out on his own. He has his own firm he started called Eddie Would Grow. And he's got his own new book out called Super Consumers that I think is absolutely wonderful. And so we just had to have this great relationship. We've worked together for several years, and we've never met in person.
Well, then there is that skill that person has to develop, like just speaking with the people, or maybe even that is going to become less and less speaking. It's more texting. People prefer texting to speaking.
And I think with voice and AI and, you know, Siri and Alexa and all of what will come in that space, they'll be talking to the technology.
Yes, of course. Of course. Yeah. Now, you also said that besides increasing the revenue, cutting costs is also CMO job.
Yeah.
But now these two variables go against each other. If you cut costs, most probably, I mean, just if you think of it, that you are marketing less, you are less times in front of whichever your market is, your revenue may go down. So how do you balance that?
Yeah. So I am not a fan of a investment model that looks like this. I'm going to stand in front of this fireplace, and the minute it throws some heat, I'll give it a log.
Okay.
Right? You got to put the log on the fire.
Yeah.
And so I'm a big fan of investing. Put the log on the fucking fire.
Yeah.
Don't fool around. Now, at the same time, so let's say you have a high growth company that's an emerging category king in a very exciting space. That's fantastic, but Shaku, you know what happens to expenses.
Yeah.
All sorts of crazy shit can start to happen.
Yes.
Now, look, some of it's okay. And
Yeah.
some of it is, listen, if we're investing in engineers and we're building the category,
yeah,
and we've got a great sales organization, if we're putting it in the right places, great. And if we're having some foolish things every once in a while, that's fine. But we all know there's a magic line. That's right.
Wasn't that one of the main reasons that the startups in around 1998 to 2001 thought the venture money which they got was revenue?
Yeah, they treated it that way, and they certainly forgot that the best venture money is customers.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
But venture money is really a loan, just like most of the people who use credit cards. It's not really credit, it is loan. It's a loan card. It should be called instant loan card. It's not a credit card.
It's a great way to think about it. And it reminds me of Eric Yuan when he came on Legends and Losers, the founder and CEO of Zoom.
Okay.
He's raised $130 million he didn't need because he made sure the company was profitable very quickly. I think he got there from his angel and his Series A, if my memory's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe that's what you are saying, is that ludicrous expenses should be cut down.
Yeah, but on the other hand,
toga parties.
Well, hey, you got to let me have a couple of those. But like my favorite example right now is Jeff Bezos at Amazon, right? And when he believes they need to do something courageous and take a risk on a new category, a new technology, he'll go to Wall Street and he'll say, listen, we're going to invest above the curve. That means it's going to crater our margins. That means it's going to kill our EBITDA and our earnings. And sorry, but we're making a giant bet on the future. And if you don't like it, shove it up your hoo-hoo. And then the stock craters 20%, 30% the next day. And he says, look, I don't care. I'm playing the long game, you short-term bastards. You get out of my stock anyway. Fuck you. Right. Yeah. And so that's a very calculated, courageous, thoughtful way to make a big investment. So I'm all for that.
Yeah.
And I'm all for a little bit of silliness. But look, the bottom line is there's always a way to cut some expenses. So just cut them and put some discipline in. Come on.
Absolutely. Absolutely right. Now, this is something which is from your book now, which I hear that doing very, very well. It's translated in multiple languages, including Spanish, Portuguese, Japanese, Chinese, and what else?
Korean,
maybe British English.
I think, yes, British English. We're still working on the Canadian English version. Okay.
Okay, but it's doing very, very well now.
It is. It's now, very cool.
Where you have done amazing job with your co-authors. Is that helping the entrepreneurs to think about the categories?
So the only way I can know how to answer that question is by the emails and the LinkedIns and the tweets and the people who reach out. And so I'm at a place today where I get at least one a day, and sometimes it's many a day.
Okay.
And people say stuff that blows me away, that the
That's
book not
wonderful.
just changed their business, but changed their life. And now what they've been trying to do and figure out in their head now makes sense to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
things along those lines.
Yeah. Now, so that's your, you are saying that you really should think about creating a category and not just being a Me Too's, because Me Too is much more difficult. Is it?
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather be Shaku than not, because others are compared to you, right?
Yeah. So that's what that
Right?
was.
You're a pioneer. People compare themselves to you. You took ground.
But it was not easy.
Yeah, and I think if you ask
It's hard
Pablo
work.
Picasso, was it easy? He would probably say, no, for a long time it wasn't.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of hard work and taking risks.
Yeah.
You have to take risk. Now, you also have said that rebranding is not going to be the best thing in the world.
Yes, I want to make sure this is clear. This is in the context of advice to a new CMO. And I don't know what it is, but CMOs, they come in, they don't do things focused on revenue. They don't do things focused on cost. They don't get out in the field. They decide it's time to rebrand the fucking company. And we're going to hire, rebranding code are us, and we're going to spend some gigantic amount of money, sometimes millions of dollars. And then we're going to have a new website and business cards. And they just like play with crayons. Well, that's the surest way to get fired. There's no value in playing with crayons.
Mhm.
Now, look, I also want to be clear. I believe strongly in the power of branding, but any branding strategy absent a category strategy is a waste of money, because you don't know what you're doing. You're just screaming your name, your attributes in the context of what? That's
Exactly.
why no software is so
Yes.
genius, right?
Yes.
So what am I saying? New CMOs fall into a trap. They don't get tactical, drive revenue, cut some costs, get some basic blocking and tackling, get some bunts, get some basic shit working well, right?
Yeah. So
and then earn the right to work to a category strategy. But for the love of whoever you love, rebranding the company in the context of nothing just so that you can pee in your new backyard is insane.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Because I come across people, they have been telling me now, oh, you are famous. I want to be famous by being on social media. I said, social media is as good as the content.
It's what Eric Weinmeier said. The world doesn't need more bullshit.
Yes, absolutely right. It's like you can't become famous by posting some nonsense on the social media, which is so easy to do.
And look, I have some fun, and I post some silly shit and some quotes sometimes and whatever. But don't be confused that understand that's what you're doing.
Yes. So in your words, you're saying category kings get product, company, and category right. Can you expand a little bit about that? Product, company, and category. So product is what I mentioned, is the content.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what the company is, but it's what the consumer buys.
Right. So product, company, and category. You have to get these three things, prosecuting the magic triangle. Yeah. So can you expand a little bit on that?
So on the company side, it's your business model, your distribution model. And interestingly enough, Shaku, when you unpack a category king, the company that gets 2/3 of the economics, they center themselves at a new, and I know this is going to sound like jargon, but ecosystem, or if you will, solar system, that they're at the center of. So I don't care who you are. Like if you look at, let's go outside of tech, the other Cisco, the food distribution Cisco, they sit at the center of what makes the restaurant industry work in the United States, right? They're the center of that wheel. Everything spins around them, right? And so getting clear of that really is an incredibly important thing. Yeah.
So maybe you should think about writing another book just with the title, Product, Company, and Category.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. I'll give you a great example. Most of the time, if you don't get all three right, you won't get a category king. But every once in a while, you get a category king that's got one wrong. And by the way, it's never the category.
No.
Right. Because the category is the single point of failure in business.
Example.
So Kodak, legendary brand, legendary product, legendary technology. No one cares.
Polaroid.
Yes.
Another one. Polaroid, right? Another one.
When there's a shift from to, same thing more recently with Dell.
Wang.
Yes.
DEC.
Yes. And now, unfortunately, we're looking at HP.
And DEC had fantastic products.
Incredible products. Sun Microsystems. Incredible technology.
But they had fantastic products. Somebody else is making use of them, like Oracle, Java.
Yeah, because Larry is a master sensei category designer. He convinced the world that the distinction between relational and flat file mattered. And then he convinced the world that portability mattered. And the economic case was very clear, and ba-boom. I mean I'm not tied to a hardware vendor? Wow.
Yes, you're right.
Right?
But Sun Microsystems is phenomenal. If you think of it, Java is incredible.
Incredible. And they figured out the internet. They understood the internet before any of us did. Look, here's the truth. And anyone who says much different, okay, maybe you're a lot smarter than me, but I'm going to be honest. Their tagline, the network is the computer, confused the shit out of me for way longer than I want to admit.
Yes, you're
right. The network is the computer. Those guys were geniuses. Geniuses.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. When, there was a moment in time where that hit you back in those days.
So, but that means then just having the category, first time category, if it is not played right, could work against you.
Well, yeah, because if you create the category and you don't prosecute the magic triangle. So, for example, I just had this debate with an entrepreneur friend of mine, and his business is on fire. And so he said to me, he stopped marketing because he can't deal with the inbound. And I said to him, listen, what the category is telling you is that there's a number of people who see the problem as you've defined it, and that number is now scaling or tipping. And once people see a problem, they can't unsee it. And so if you don't fulfill with the solution, they'll find someone else. And so I said to him, you have to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. You have to be able to scale your business and continue to market, because if you don't prosecute the magic triangle,
somebody else will.
Yes. And
grab
you
it.
created the damn demand.
Yes, yes. Okay. And so that's what you mean also with the company.
Yeah. And then every once in a while, and my favorite example is Lululemon. Lululemon gets product and category like so legendarily right. It's, there's a law in Santa Cruz that a third of the women must be wearing these things at all times. And yet the company is a piece of shit company. They miss their numbers all the time. Their founder said all this horrible things about women's posteriors and all this stuff. They're just a terrible company. Investors hate them. I don't know. They're just not a well-run company. But there's nobody executing on the solution the way they are. They're the category king. And so even though they're a shitty company, it doesn't really matter. The demand, the founder can say horrible things about women and no one cares. They keep buying them.
Maybe it's by design.
Who knows? Look, who knows? It could be some fantastically weird.
Yes, they must be saying, hey, it's working, so keep on doing.
Just keep
Keep
let
on
the
doing.
crazy just keep rolling.
Keep on rolling. Okay, now to come to the last point now with you, and looking forward, where do you think marketing is headed in 2 years, 5 and 10 years, and what type of people will succeed in the future?
Oh, it's such a great question. And I think if you'd asked me this for the vast majority of my life in marketing, I think this would be my answer. But this is the most exciting time ever to be in marketing. So I think the cool thing is we're seeing a very interesting bifurcation in skill sets. On one hand, the value of a creative and strategic mind increases every day. And the value in a marketing context of an analytical mind with a very creative bent. Like I love talking to growth hackers.
What is that?
Growth hackers.
Growth hackers.
Yeah. And I just talked to this guy who Facebook says is one of the top community builders and managers on Facebook about how he did his thing and talking to these guys. And so there's this whole new world of a sort of digital black art that's really cool. And then all of this digital analytics and all of the channels, this quote unquote omni-channel world that we're in, and the integration of offline and online, right? So Amazon buys Whole Foods. What does that lead us to? And
Amazon also bought the Washington Post.
Yeah, well, I think that's his after-school volleyball project or something. I don't know. But so I just think all that stuff is really cool, and it brings a set of analytical skills. And so I think you'll have creative and strategic marketers. I think thought leadership and content has always been important and will continue to be important. And then I think these digital marketers who are really cool at this good old-fashioned email marketing.
Yeah.
Direct marketing.
It's coming back.
No, look, I wrote this book, right? You go ask anybody, hey, how do you market a book? Develop an email list. Exactly. What are you talking? In the age of Twitter and Snapchat and all this shit, you're telling me direct marketing? Like George Shustel used to send up brochures with our face on them to people. Yes. We're just
but that's how we got bigger, because they put our photos on thousands and thousands of those.
God bless them. God bless them.
Where is he now?
I don't know. That's a horrible story.
Okay.
Poor George.
Any last few words that you want to give to the marketers for the today and for the future?
I think it takes courage to be legendary.
Guts.
And, yes.
Guts.
And yeah, I just look. Why would we play small? What do we serve by playing small? I'll give you a perfect example. Entrepreneurs I know, great guys. They're in the physical world, so and they have an emerging digital business. So it's a very small percent of their business, but there's a lot of potential. So blah blah yada yada yada. They come to me and say, we're thinking about doing this, we're thinking about doing that, but it's all really small. And I said, well, okay, you could do that. But why wouldn't you figure out how to get in touch with the people who have built the best digital commerce, e-commerce businesses in your, category, consumer category, and learn from them and maybe hire them or do, and they're like, well, how would you do that? Well, you just fucking email them on LinkedIn, or you call them, or you know somebody who knows somebody. Like, you just make that shit happen. Anyway, long story short, without getting into the details that I shouldn't, I got him a meeting with like a very important fucking set of people. And it's very cool, right? And so open the aperture, right? Here's the thing that I love. So you think about our phones. Human beings made those. Like, a very small number of people dreamt that shit up, and then they made that happen. And you think of anything that you and I would consider truly legendary, whether it's human beings going into space, or the incredible mind of Walt Disney, or William Shakespeare, or whoever you want to talk about, or the music of the Ramones, who I know you're a big fan of.
Yeah.
A few people got together and made that shit happen.
Yes.
Human beings.
And billions of people are using it.
Yes.
And I know in India, people who cannot read and write, they are using mobile phone.
Right.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes. And so what I find amazing about it is not just the awesomeness of the thing or the things, but inspiring that, well, if those human beings can do that, what can we do in our lives?
That's right. Right.
Because I've had the good fortune of meeting some of these people. And like you and I were talking about before, they poop every day.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so there are still exciting times still to come. We already have them, and we will continue to have them, right?
Yeah, I mean, look at this. You can start your own broadcast network for peanuts.
I mean, we are doing this here.
Right.
We don't have to go to NBC or ABC or just put 3 or 4 letters together.
We don't need anybody's permission.
That's right. We can just
boom,
talk away.
We have a TV radio show instantly.
Yes, exactly. So thank you very much, Chris. I appreciate it. And I always have admired being friend with you. And I look forward to working with you in the future.
Shaku, I can't thank you enough. You're an extraordinary gift in my life. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, there it is. How do you like that? The first takeover of Legends and Losers. Shaku, it was really a life thrill. And I'm so touched and honored that A, you wanted to do it, and B, you did that. So thank you so much. If you know anybody who you think would be inspired by this dialogue I just had with Shaku, why not share it with them right now? And we would love it if you went to iTunes or Stitcher or YouTube or Facebook or wherever you experience Legends and Losers, and gave us a wonderful review. That is, assuming you think we're wonderful. We would like to thank World Woman Warrior, the organization on a mission to help women everywhere develop skills to become financially independent forever, at worldwomanwarrior.com. Equity Directory, connecting startups to the talent and resources they need to build a legendary business, at equitydirectory.co. HarperCollins Instant Classic Play Bigger, How Pirates, Dreamers, and Innovators Create and Dominate Markets. It makes a wonderful present for the 10,000 closest friends you have in business and entrepreneurship. OneLifeFullyLived.org. We're the nonprofit that helps you plan, dream, and live your best life. Check us out at OneLifeFullyLived.org. Faster, Higher, Farther. The Volkswagen Scandal. The very important read, the incredible, riveting book by New York Times writer and Legends and Losers guest, my friend Jack Ewing. Mint Systems, green buildings that make money, at mintwithaYsystems.com. Check us out. 800 CEO Read, business books. Don't be a loser. Read something. If you want to buy all those copies of Play Bigger, check it out. 800CEORead.com. A podcast I love, The Business of Story, with my friend Park Howell. Fantastic show. Tequila, Make Tonight Unpredictable. Dominican Hospital in Santa Cruz, California, part of the Dignity Health Network. Hello, Human Kindness. PursuingResults.com, producers of legendary podcasts. If you want to get into podcasting, check them out at PursuingResults.com. InterviewValet.com, podcast interview marketing. If you're a thought leader, the best way to spread viral thoughts today is on podcasts. Check out InterviewValet.com. And Kiva.org. Loans that change lives. Microfinancing makes a huge difference. Check out kiva.org. And with that, we'd like to remind you that today's information is provided to you solely for informational purposes, and this oddcast is the sole property of the Legends and Losers Oddcast Network, and we would love you if you shared the shit out of it. We have to warn you, this oddcast was produced in a studio that does contain nuts, but is never tested on CMOs. Teach girls to write software. Support your local losers. Listen to Chris Cornell. God bless Jack O'Neill. We hated United Airlines before it was cool. And when you're done listening to the show, please be kind and rewind. And never forget the sage words of Yogi Berra, who said, "We make too many wrong mistakes." Thank you, Candy Dandy. Love you, Mom and Dad. And hey, Colin, this oddcast really ties the room together, doesn't it? Our apologies today go to Greg Clark, Chief Executive Officer of Symantec. Sorry, Greg, we just ran out of time for you. That's it, my legendary friends. Thank you so much for investing part of your life with us. And we'll see you again soon on another episode of Legends and Losers.